was in February 2020. So this feels momentous to be back here with all of you. So thank you, and thank you for giving us a moment to get everyone to come in the door. All right, well, my name is Rachel, and I'm the Public Programs Manager here at MOHAI, and welcome to the space. Don't worry though, you won't be hearing much from me. I am about to turn it over to a series of amazing partners to regale you with some super important history about the Green Book. But before we dive into the program, first and foremost, anytime we do a program, we want to acknowledge that we are on Indigenous land. And for those of you who might be live streaming in, you should definitely take a look on whose land you are on if you're not from the Seattle area. If you go to nativeland.ca, you can learn more about tribal affiliations in your area. Here at MOHAI, we are on the historic and contemporary lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, and all Coast Salish people. Local Native communities were forcibly removed from the city, but we honor the endurance of those who still live here with deep respect and gratitude for their stewardship of this place. To this day, the Duwamish people have yet to receive federal recognition, and we urge you to go visit the Duwamish Longhouse over in West Seattle to learn more. We feel like understanding our past connects us to the present, and MOHAI is committed to exploring the full complexity of our history, which is what we're going to be doing today. So thank you again so much for joining us for this program, Making Our Way, as part of the Green Book More Than a Guide. And now I'd like to introduce our MC for this program, Stephanie Johnson-Tolliver. MC, yes, big round of applause. Of Washington State, where she leads a dedicated board of directors who are committed to uphold the Society's mission to preserve and share the history of Black people from across the region. And MOHAI is so honored to be longtime institutional partners with BHS and committed to continuing to tell this important history. And like I said, we haven't done a program here since March 2020, and it actually was celebrating Black History Month in 2020 that we were able, or February 2020. Wow. Yeah, so please give it away for Stephanie.
Right, it doesn't seem like it's been that long since we've been here together. Welcome, everyone, to the Green Book, More Than a Guide. This is something that we've been talking about for quite a while, is to be able to present some programming around the Green Book, share some of the history, and especially as we anticipate the fabulous exhibition that's coming to the Washington State History Museum. So you'll hear more about that on the program. But yes, thank you, Rachel, for that kind introduction. And I want to acknowledge, always want to acknowledge the volunteers, our volunteer board. BHS is a all-volunteer board. And today there are some members here. If you just raise your hand or stand up or something, please. Carol Peoples-Proctor, please. Others. And Susan Taylor is somewhere in the room. I don't know if there. And recognizing some of the faces, too, of our membership. Really beautiful people and membership, and hope that everybody will look at some of the material we have on the table today and decide that you want to be one of these history keepers as well. Andrea, really good. I've seen you here in the audience too. Thanks for coming out. You know, when I was talking to Rachel just yesterday, we were here actually out in the atrium, and I said, we, have been so lucky to be partners for 20 plus years. But actually, our partnership started to warm up. We started to get kind of cozy around 1980. So it's been at least 40 years, where the Museum of History and Industry stepped up at the first annual tea. The Black Heritage Society used to have a tea. I don't know what happened, but the first annual tea in 1980, they supported us with display cases for the memorabilia from our collection, and they also printed the programs for that event. So, great recognition. I'm going to give you just a little bit of a brief history of the Green Book, and then I'm going to turn it over to these fabulous guests that are here today with me, Ashley Harrison and Ben Hunter and Gwen Whiting from the Washington State Historical Society. And I should say too, and you probably saw this already, I don't know how you could miss it, but that fabulous art installation that's in the atrium, Bonnie Hopper, a fabulous artist, and member of the Onyx Collective. Chris Hopper, her brother, produced this show. And they have another event that's coming up later in the year, and they'll tell you more about it when you get out and get an opportunity to just walk through and check out the installation. I was here yesterday and I'm just, like blown away. And I saw that portrait. I don't know, Bonnie, if you're in the room. No? But that portrait of Jimi Hendrix, I'm like, Jimmy! So, yeah, really awesome. I'm gonna get this pointer thing down here, get this business down with the pointer. Don't hate me if I go wrong. We'll figure it out. Okay. Oh, I know, there she is. I absolutely was loving putting this particular slide together, and just to share, I know I've shared some of VHS, but our history is a long one. 1977 is when it was founded, and one of the co-founders here, Jackie Lawson, and the Black Heritage Society Resource Center room that's located at MOHAI with our partners in Georgetown. This was really a fabulous day when they unveiled the naming of this room after Jackie. So a lot of work happens out of that space with Ethel Marie and one other collections team member right now. We're hoping to get some volunteers back to help support the activity in there as soon as some of these COVID restrictions get really, off the table. We'll have some more volunteers coming in, and you can see that the aisles and stacks of history that's lining these shelves. And one of our main goals is to be able to get that history off the shelves. It's nice to have you come down, make an appointment, come down, put the white gloves on, pull the stuff off the shelf. But what we would really love to do is to be able to digitize this collection, at least to prioritize some of the legacies within it and digitize it. So watch for that soon, and we hope to have something happen maybe a little bit later this year. We'll see.
Stephanie, that Lietta King is a bridge group that Jackie started. It's still in existence, and it's 75 years old.
Right. Carol mentioned that the cases, the archival boxes just under Jackie's photograph is a bridge club that she helped to found and bridge.
Like the Clark?
I know see, the sad thing is that they've recruited Carol and I to be. They said, we need you young folks, and we're looking at each other like, what? Young folks to come and I'm just saying, it's hard, you gotta count cards.
I'll join. I want to learn how to play bridge.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm just,
Okay.
it's hard. Okay, so, anyway. So, the Green Book, really a great slide. Wait, I'm not used to this. I'm just like bumping all into this thing here. Microphone.
Doing great.
The Negro Motorist Green Book. It was first published in 1936 and founded by this genius person, Victor Hugo Green. He was a postman, a postal worker. He was on a trip with his wife. His wife, Alma, was from the South. I believe it was Virginia. And they would travel there. And along that route from New York to Virginia, there were obstacles for them. And he knew that those obstacles were there for other people too. So he, again, this ingenious idea, successful idea, was to create this commodity that was the Green Book. And it wasn't until 1939 when you started to see Washington State appear in the Green Book. And so this is the cover of the 1939, the Negro Motorist Green Book, Victor Hugo. And I absolutely love, this is our page. And I know it might be kind of difficult to see some of the names of these places, but Ashley's going to help you with it just a little bit later on the program. But you can see that there were tourist homes, hotels, a few hotels, and even in Yakima and Walla Walla. So it makes you think, when you think about the times in 1939, those were places where black people lived. Those were coal miners. Those were people who had migrated or had moved from Roslyn to the Yakima Valley. They were farming there. And so it makes perfect sense that these locations would be on the Green Book. What I really like about this too is, with the Green Book, is that every once in a while through the book you'll come across these kind of tips and hints, suggestions for driving on the road. And this one just kind of cracked me up. This says, okay, how to keep from growing old. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So one of them is, demand half the road, the middle half. Insist on your rights. Here's one, never stop, look, or listen at railroad crossing. It consumes time. Never look around when you back up. There is never anything behind you. So, I don't know, I think it was meant as just a distraction. If you're on the road, you gotta have a laugh somewhere along the road. So there were these kinds of things that were in the Green Book. And I think that what it does too is it establishes this, when you're looking through these Green Books, and I'm encouraging you to do that, they are available online. And I didn't provide the link to that today, but it's easily found at the New York Public Library, where you can link in to see all the digital copies of the Green Book, which is really nice. Okay, here we go. You know, most of what the Green Book was about was getting people from point A to point B, the safe havens, the places where black people could sleep, they could eat, take a break, maybe, recreate just a little bit, but it was also a builder of black business. And that's a huge takeaway with this. And we can't, neglect or not want to talk about that in terms of ESSO was huge with the Green Book and Victor Green. He made an arrangement with ESSO Oil to distribute his book, but the nice thing about all of this was that at ESSO they had a black person, their first black marketing director at ESSO, who talked to them about actually franchising the ESSO service stations to black people. So black people were generating wealth and creating this space for themselves. And so you saw that kind of thing throughout the Green Book. There were organizations and businesses that were beauty parlors, restaurants, and so on, that were existing businesses, but it also encouraged the new entrepreneurs, to get out there and do something, to take advantage of this opportunity with the Green Book. So I'm really excited to hear what Gwen Whiting is going to say about some of that today too. Okay, so here we go, the Green Book. And I talked about, just very briefly, that it was published in 1936. Had some really successful years, all of the years. It did suspend the publication during World War II. So from 41 to 46, there was no publication. But it came back online in 1947. So from 1947 until 1950, you'll see that the Green Book got thicker. The pages are heavier. There were more businesses. And even in Washington State, I think by mid-1950s, there might have been at least 80, if not more, different sites that were listed in the Green Book. But by 1966, when the Green Book was, just about ready to just shut it down, this was the 1966-67 page for Washington State. So you can see here how from 1939, we almost had more than we did in 66 or 67. And some of that had to do with, this hope around the 1964 Civil Rights Act and people thinking, okay, we don't need this book anymore. But we all know that Traveling While Black still exists today, different shapes and forms. But I thought it interesting in the 1966-67 is you'll see places that were more, hotels, lodges, the lodges, National Park, at Rainier National Park, Paradise Lodge. So you could see it where it was starting to just sort of decline, and it did actually shut down into 66 versus 1967. Victor Green died in 1960, but again, his wife, Alma, picked it up and really ran with it for its success for the last years. And I think that's, I want one more slide, just really quickly. I don't want to run out of time, but I do want to share this because there's so many stories within the Green Book. And some of those stories are local stories. And these are photographs that of people that are telling stories locally around the Green Book. In the top right-hand corner are the Bishop brothers from Bishop's Pharmacy that was on 7th and Jackson. Right, 7th, on Jackson Street. And they were there in the 1930s and then even into the latter part of the 50s and 60s. The lower right-hand corner are the Patton family. So Patricia Patton, who's the youngest girl standing down front, tells the story of how her family would leave Seattle and head to California, and they used that Green Book just on that route between Seattle and California. And that was in, the 60s, late 50s, 60s. And some of that family still lives here in Seattle. And next to them is Steen Slade. And Steen worked at Annie Smith's Cafe. That house is still standing off of Madison Street, off of 22nd and Madison. Here she is standing in front of the building, the house telling her story just a couple of years ago, what it was like working at Annie's, which is in the Green Book. And then, of course, Stockard's Barbershop, which is just up the street from Annie's. And I know some of the Stockard family is here today. Hey, you guys, see you back here. So yeah, there are so many stories to be told. And with that, and the stories, I want to introduce you. You know what? We're going to have some time here too for some Q&A at the end. So I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I want you to welcome Ashley Harrison and Ben Hunter from. Ben's looking like me. Well, from Black and Tan Hall, that will talk to you more about their fabulous tour and how to access their tour. And so I'm really excited to have them here today.
Hey everybody. It's really nice to see such a full crowd here. It's really nice just to see people. Just generally in real life. I'm just going to savor this for just a moment. Look deeply into all your eyes so I can take it in. My name is Benjamin Hunter, and this is Ashley Harrison. And we are from the Black and Tan Hall, which is a neighborhood collective music venue in Hillman City. I'm a musician and I exist here in this space to celebrate art and collective achievement and what happens when culture is allowed to do what it's supposed to do, which is grow and build and maneuver and live and breathe. And that's largely what we try and believe at the Black and Tan Hall as a collective of people from various backgrounds that want to celebrate our neighborhood and our community. And that is what I'm going to start off with, and now I'm going to pass it to Ashley.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to be doing this dance a lot, trading off to keep it varied. What Ben didn't tell you about himself is that he's one of 3 co-founders of Black and Tan Hall, as well as co-founder of Hillman City Collaboratory, and really involved, works as an artistic director at Book Life. He's all over the place. He's a dad. So Ben's just making a lot of contributions in the community and was a big piece in bringing together what is today Black and Tan Hall. We're a 27-member collective at this point. And so my name is Ashley Harrison. I'm one of the partners at Black and Tan Hall. I've been part of it since 2017. Part of why I'm standing up here today also is that I've been the lead of what we call our history circle. We don't say committees, we say circles. It's a sneaky way of getting people onto committees. And I have some background in libraries and archives as well. I've been the lead of the history circle there. And one thing that we always try to do when we're doing historical work is to link past and present. And so we hope that you'll hear some of that today. And then to really kick off our comments here, we want to start with some thank yous. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, VHS and MOHAI, for having us and being fantastic partners in the planning. And an enormous thank you to Stephanie. Can we get a round of applause for this? Black Heritage Society of Washington State has been a phenomenal partner, has invited us into this, and we would not be standing here before you today without their invitation and partnership. And beyond the institutional support, Stephanie individually has just been an amazing supporter. Esther Mumford, one of the founding members of VHS, also reviewed some of our work and provided insights and feedback in an earlier stage. And Andrea Bunk, who's here today, one of the members, made the original introduction to me and Stephanie that helped to put this all together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope that everybody's also seen some of their virtual tour work. It's available through the Revisiting Washington State, the African American Heritage in King County tour that covers off, our tour covers a very small geographic area, and they've done a lot to cover off on some larger pieces. And then we also owe some thanks to MOHAI and VHS, who gave us permission to use their wonderful photographic collections in our multimedia tour. And we're excited to be presenting here today with Glenn from the Washington State Historical Society. Okay, I think that's our thank yous.
I'm back. So we're going to give you guys an overview of why we undertook this project, give you a little history of how we got here, a preview of some of the themes and stories you'll find in the Seattle Green Book Tour, so that when you guys all download that app, right now, or in a minute from now, or in 45 minutes, you guys all have a little bit of backstory to guide you on that tour. And we're also gonna, I think part of what we are trying to do at Black and Tan Hall, one of the reasons that we took on the name Black and Tan Hall as an extension of the Black and Tan Club, and really an extension of the Black and Tan clubs across the country, was because we wanted to address the relevance, the continued relevance of the work that was started with the Black and Tans in the 30s and the 20s. And then also we'll talk a little bit about the opportunities to connect with the Green Book Tour and us. Get to know, one day we'll take off the mask. So we at Black and Tan Hall are a Black-led, multiracial, neighborhood-based partnership. We're working on opening a restaurant and venue space, aiming to provide good jobs, build neighborhood wealth, highlight local creators, and produce relevant cultural programming and historical content. Our name was inspired by Seattle's legendary Black and Tan Club, part of the Jackson Street jazz scene, where people partied at all hours of the day and night. Can I get an amen? And if you could please try and bring that back. Although I am a dad, so I gotta be careful the promises I make. I'll just bring them along. What made the Black and Tan so special is that it was particular is that it was open to people of all races during a time of segregation. It challenged the notion that people needed to be separated, that we are all people and we should be able to celebrate and have fun and listen to music, jazz in particular, at that time together. Your Bix Beiderbecks and folks like that were engaging in the Black and Tans to learn the music, to be engaged with this jazz, this African American musical creation. So we're trying to make this collective side hustle into a new economic model where development benefits the community. Our location on Rainier Avenue is intended to serve as a foothold against gentrification in Hillman City. And so, we are engaged with other partnerships and other organizations to try and acquire property to make sure that this stays in the hands of the folks that live in that community and that have historically lived in that community. After a long saga to buy and renovate our building, and it was long, it was like 4 years, and I am to blame for signing the lease on a building. I just want to make sure it's public and out there. But we now have that. We now own this building, and we're now. Yeah, it's a really big step, and it's been a long time coming, and we're so gracious to the folks that have helped us get here. But we're now working to open the doors by the end of 2022. And in the meantime, we produced some music events, an annual holiday party, and with music and vendors, and we have now created this self-guided Green Book Tour. So what is this? Well, it's a free multimedia tour available as an app, or you can view it in a browser. Not our browser. I mean, we own the browser. Anyways. It highlights Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses that operated along Seattle's Jackson Street corridor between the 20s and the 60s. This vibrant avenue included the famous Black and Tan Club, as we mentioned, as well as other clubs from Seattle's early jazz scene. In this app, we feature local hotels, restaurants, clubs, and barbershops listed in the National Green Book Tour, like Stalkers, and profile some of the entrepreneurs who established them. We also include stops at several historic preservation and restoration projects. And all these articles have been recorded as audio, so you can listen as the tour through the neighborhood. And so please look up from your phones anytime you cross the street, because our voices are very captivating, and you can get lost in a dream-like experience. All the voices are from partners from the Black and Tan. It was, as the producer of that, it was really fun to listen to how everybody was able to put their own personality and their own, je ne sais quoi into telling these stories. So from our website at blackandtanhall.com, you can find it blackandtanhall.com/Green Book Tour. You can get it on the Apple or Google App Stores, Seattle Green Book Tour. You can find it directly in our blackandtanhall.onsell.com. Nobody's going to do that. So just go to Apple apps and just download the app. It's real simple. It's really beautiful. And now I'm going to pass it back to Ashley for the next part of the tour.
And if you don't want to type any of that in, you can just go to blackandtanhall.com, look for the Green Book Tour page, that'll bring you here, and click any of these buttons, and that'll move you forward. I'm going to talk for a few moments about how this came about, kind of the origin of our tour. And the idea originally came from our partner and our current general manager, Karen Toring, who's here with us this morning. And do you mind if I call you KT in this video? Okay, so we call her KT, and many people do, I think. KT, I think was frustrated with the Green Book movie that came out a couple of years ago and the ways in which it missed the mark in telling the full story and the choices it made around perspective, and wanted to do something that took it a little deeper and localized it too, and really said the kernel of it was we should do a Green Book tour of Seattle. And we wanted to really talk about the meaning and impact of the guide. And in KT's words, the Green Book Guide was born out of Black folks' need for safety, connection, and resources. And our Green Book Tour shines a light on Seattle spaces where we could be safe, build wealth, and find Black joy. And then there's a little bit of a story here about the particular way that I got involved. KT had put this idea out there, and then one of our other former partners, Kirsten Harris-Talley, was talking to me one day and said, well, this could be something that Black and Tan Hall could do. This could be something that our history circle could work on. And that really kicked it off. And at that time, the history circle was me, because everyone was up. We were shifting our gears to working on the building and really trying to figure out how are we going to open up this space. And so it's been an honor to work on this project, an idea that came from two of the leaders within our organization. To have the opportunity to work on it has been really special. And we also, we knew that there'd been increasing attention paid to the Green Book over the last few years. And we wanted to look at what the Green Book could tell us about Seattle specifically. When we talk about history, we always want to localize it. There's a lot of power in understanding how history played out in the place where you are. And so we do that in the most literal way possible, and I think it's been really illuminating. We also started planning an in-person tour. That was what it was going to be, but given the pandemic and kind of all the staffing that it would take to do that, we changed gears. And I'm really excited that we did, because now this is out there as a durable resource for community. It's accessible. We've done what we could to make it the most accessible within the constraints that we had, and hope that a lot of people will be able to participate. We also wanted, another thank you, we wanted to give thanks to the folks who provided insights and feedback along the way. As you've heard, Stephanie and Esther at VHS were instrumental. Maya Higashi from the Youth Museum also was very helpful in supporting us and giving feedback there. And Paul DeBarros came on board as a contributor. He was excited, and he shared generously of his research into Seattle's early jazz history. And so you'll find that all sprinkled throughout the tour, which really enhances it with more of a focus on the music too.
I think there's just even in this little introduction, there's a theme here that needs to be recognized. Black women have made this happen. Right?
Right on.
We're talking about KT and Kirsten Harris-Talley, who instigated this within our ranks. We have Stephanie and we have Esther. We have these incredible women that have been largely behind the scenes doing this work and not asking anything else for it, just that the work gets done. And that's a lingering theme in the history of our country, right? And so I just want to acknowledge, we would like to acknowledge the incredible efforts and work of Black women that have built up this history and this legacy and made sure that it was available for everybody to see. So thank you. Earlier in the presentation, you heard about the reasons the Green Book Guide was created and the paradox it represents of safety and community and resilience. and joy against a backdrop of exclusion, prejudice, and anger, and danger, sorry. Washington State has its own history of sundown towns, and the Green Book helped Black people safely reach and navigate Seattle. Tacoma and Everett were listed in the Green Book tour during most of its publication period, and a few other cities appeared in some years, but Seattle always had by far the most listings. Though it dates much further back, the Seattle area chapter of the in urban settings, including a large public rally in downtown Seattle in 1923. Though large rallies in the area declined as the 1920s came to a close, the organization and the people who comprised it remained.
And so, though for some of us, the Green Book may be more strongly associated with other parts of the country, such as the East Coast where it started, and the South where Jim Crow laws were long in effect, the Green Book was needed here in Washington as well. By the time the Green Book was published here, Seattle's neighborhoods were already segregated. Black residents and travelers were not guaranteed service or accommodations throughout huge swaths of the city. And this was also the time frame during which racial restrictive covenants were becoming common, and those restricted housing access in certain neighborhoods up until they were ruled unenforceable by the Supreme Court. Many of those, though unenforceable and invalid now, they remain formally part of house deeds throughout the city and of course throughout other parts of the country too. So as another partner at Black and Tan Hall has said, Sadiqa Iman said, "It was not a good time. We made good times. We were able to come together in that terrible era for Black people and have fun, eat food, listen to music, create. Legends were here in Seattle. It's not something that needs to be recreated, it's something that we can return to."
Allows us to map the places Black travelers could visit for lodging and goods and services and community. And to identify sites, we started with issues of the Green Book itself, which NYPL Schonberg Center for Research in Black Culture has digitized and made available online. We saw three major groupings of locations: the Jackson Street Corridor, the Central District, and Madison Valley. And while the CD and Madison Valley are better known as areas of historically high Black home and business ownership, we chose the Jackson Street Corridor as the first segment of our tour because that path led up to the old Black and Tan Club. So it provided a great way to tell a set of stories about the corridor and the Prohibition era jazz scene it supported. So just keep your eye out for the Madison and the CD version when you download the app in the next 60 seconds. You want to keep going?
Yes.
We're right once we select. We're good. Yeah, we're good.
And then just to provide a bit of context for what you're seeing here in the visual, this is the front page of an issue of the Northwest Enterprise, I think August 1944 edition. There's a particular, take this with me, you'll see down here actually a small snippet that we include at one of our sites regarding Ruth Whiteside's beauty parlor or beauty school. So Ruth Whiteside herself and one of the other instructors and managers of the school are shown here. But I mean, just take a moment to appreciate what you see about who's being covered and whose stories are being told. I mean, this is the importance of Black-owned newspapers here in Seattle. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But once we selected the sites, we used the digitized historical newspapers to find stories about these locations and reconstruct their histories. These papers and many more can be accessed online at the Library of Congress's Chronicling America database, which has really worked hard to digitize and make searchable several hundred years worth of newspapers from across the country. It's an incredible resource. And we also searched the Seattle Times and the Seattle PI historical archives online. But the features in Black-owned papers were invaluable. They provided so much more depth, more frequent coverage and more respectful coverage of the sites and the people connected to them. A really clear example of this can be seen in an earlier article that we published about the 1920 founding of the Alhambra Cabaret, which later became the Black and Tan Club, and its owner, Harry Legg. The Seattle Times published stories on Harry only twice, when he was suspected of bootlegging and after an altercation with a neighbor. but his civic and business accomplishments were only chronicled in Caton's Weekly, published by his friend Horace Caton Sr., another Blackburn paper that was active at that time. And that article is available in the South Seattle Emerald online. And thanks for doing the trade-off. It gives me a chance to catch my breath.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah, everybody make sure to breathe. With your mask on, of course. And so, look at that, though. Just look at that. You know, they don't, you got a special order those collars these days. I've been trying to find them, and they're real expensive, those shirts and those collars. It's real clean. Anyways. So, from railroads and streetcars to private automobiles, our tour starts at King Street Station and mostly follows Jackson Street up the hill to the old Black and Tan Club at 12th and Jackson, and a little bit slightly beyond. Our tour basically follows the old streetcar line with a few deviations to include more sites. This might seem like an odd choice given that the guide's full name was the Negro Motorist Green Book, but the Green Book's era marked a profound transition from travel primarily by set rail routes to travel by personal family vehicle. This shift provided for greater dignity and freedom. I mean, that is dignified. I knew I should have worn my hat. But it set for greater dignity and freedom in travel compared to having to travel in segregated rail cars. But only with the right resources to help chart a safe course to one's destination.
And again, context on the photo. This one too is shared courtesy of the Black Heritage Society of Washington State. And the folks you're seeing here, it's Noodles Smith, or E. Russell Smith, who was a one-time owner of the Black and Tan Club and a number of other sites on the tour. And several of his friends, including his business partner, Burr Williams, together in a vehicle that Noodles owned. So I don't think I have the year on this one.
The vehicle or the picture?
Probably the same, right? That would have been brand spanking new.
Location?
That one location was here in Seattle. I don't have the specifics. Anybody know?
The vehicle is like a bear cat, so the vehicle is much older than that. It's much older than the photo.
Okay, I'm being corrected. The vehicle's older than the photo, almost certainly. I know nothing about cars. Especially this is and then this photo is from the 1930s. This is inside the old Black and Tan Club itself. This is up at the bar. This one, really love this photograph. So the other reason that we told the story in this way and focused on this particular geographic segment is that we wanted to ground the history in the moment of the transition that Ben talked about, and reflect the role of Black traveling railroad workers in building up the Jackson Street jazz scene. It was largely driven by working people, especially railroad workers whose trains might come in at any time of day or night, and who sought entertainment and accommodations close to the train stations. Jackson Street at that time was well served by Seattle's original streetcar system, which linked the waterfront and the railroad stations up to 12th Avenue and well beyond. And over time, the shift to private vehicles reshaped the neighborhood in several ways. As cars became more prevalent, the streetcars were taken out of service and eventually replaced with buses, which were initially called trackless trolleys. I love that. And eventually the I-5 freeway was built right through this neighborhood. At least one of the sites featured on our tour was demolished as part of the freeway's construction. Okay. This is a later photo from inside the Black and Tan Club, 1947. And this is from the Al Smith collection here at MOHAI. It's also available in the tour and used with permission. You can see this group of young Black women around a table, maybe a friend in the background leaning into view in the photo, dressed up, bottle of wine or something on the table there. Yeah, another just a fabulous photo. Okay, so what stories can you expect to find in our Green Book tour? We have 13 sites. That includes the train station, 4 hotels, 4 nightclubs, 2 barbershops or beauty parlors, a community hall, a liquor store, and thank you, Maria, for voicing the liquor store stop. Maria's going to be our bartender at Black and Tan. She told us a long time ago. But I don't think she's the only one bidding for that, so I don't want to get in the middle of that.
the only job we've been able to fill.
That's true.
Thank you.
And then, let's see. Oh, and we include the Seattle streetcar itself as a stop on the tour to allow us to talk a little bit about the streetcar history and include it as a way to get up a steep stretch of Jackson from about 7th to 12th to get you to 12th and Jackson where the old Black and Tan nightclub was. And then some of the hotels that we feature also had nightclubs and barbershops inside of them too that we didn't cover as separate stops, but just really extensive spaces that really, were there to help take care of all your needs. What you won't find in our tour are some of the Black churches and community centers. Many of these were located in the Central District in Madison Valley, and the area that we focused on was long considered the Vice District by City Hall. But if you want to find out more about Black churches and social and community institutions in the city in Madison Valley, you can check out Black Heritage Society's African American Heritage Sites tour mentioned earlier.
So we'll be serving wine and beer and drinks called or something as well. In case you want to wet your whistle ahead of time. The stories in the Seattle Green Book tour fall under several major themes. Okay, so the overarching theme is Black entrepreneurship, of course. And after all, the Green Book was a business directory. In addition to helping Black travelers to find safe and welcoming places, it also served to advertise those places so they could grow their business. That's a network, right? Something we want to recreate and just make sure that we understand the value of relationships and networking. Second, we wanted to lift up Black female entrepreneurs. So you'll find features on Ruth Whiteside's Beauty Parlor, as Ashley mentioned, and Beauty School, and some of its students who went on to impact the community through their businesses and activism. We also feature Elby Smith, ex-wife of the famous Noodle Smith. She got a hotel in their divorce, owned the building and the business outright, and operated it for over 20 years as one of just a few Black-owned hotels in the city. Just another example of the fortitude of Black women in this country. The Coast Hotel was demolished during the construction of I-5. Two related themes are community gathering spaces and interracial spaces. So the Green Dot Barbershop was a community space in the tradition of Black barbershops, but the back room was a speakeasy and gambling spot by night. So it served as two kinds of community space. And please, if any of you guys know of any of those places that exist today, you can just find me outside of this presentation. As we've mentioned before, the Black and Tan Club was by and for Black folks and welcomed everyone who wanted to be a part of it.
But the tour route itself largely follows Jackson Street through the Chinatown International District and historic Chinatown and Japantown neighborhoods. So one thing that was really interesting about looking at the Green Book guide specifically for this area is that there were a number of Black-owned businesses in that neighborhood and some Asian-owned businesses that advertised for many years in the Green Book and the Northwest Enterprise, which was the premier local Black paper at the time. So we highlight some of those locations, but as one of our partners at the Hall has pointed out, it's also important to recall that these positive examples of solidarity don't necessarily tell the whole story, nor do they capture or reflect the complexity of Black and Asian relations in Seattle. But during our research, we did find these paper articles in the Northwest Enterprise describing how the incarceration of the Japanese American residents had a huge impact on Black residents of the CID. Who lived in apartments and residential hotels operated by these Japanese families. And many of these tenants were promptly evicted by the white custodians who operated the businesses that were taken from their Japanese owners and proprietors. So we include this story as well as a stop on our tour. And I just want to note as well that today is the National Day of Remembrance, marking the 80th anniversary of Executive Order 9066, which ordered the incarceration of Japanese Americans across the West Coast.
Another gathering place we feature is the Club Royale, which was located in the basement of the Louisa Hotel. In 2016, last year, the building owners rediscovered murals during renovations and embarked on a project to restore and preserve them. This is one of those remnants. So you see, art plays a huge role still in all of this. The murals are believed to have been painted in the 1930s, and they depict black and white patrons dressed in top hats and furs and gems, all descending the stairway into the underground speakeasy club space. The murals are exquisite and beautiful and a visceral connection to that moment in time. We thought about just like digging a big old hole and then just like lowering the black and tan hall into it so they had to go. But we don't own a browser, so. Unfortunately, they are also some of the only indicators that we have or that we are aware of that reflect the presence of black revelers and residents in this neighborhood. None of the black-owned businesses we listed are still in operation, and their histories are not featured or lifted up in many places.
One of the other themes in the tour is around prohibition. Do all the prospective black and tan hall bartenders want to come up for this bit? So this is actually, this is something that was part of MOHAI's Al Smith on the Spot exhibit several years ago. And this is a setup. So Washington's prohibition lasted an unusually long time, and cocktails, or liquor by the drink, wasn't legalized until about 1948. And so a lot of these places were officially bottle clubs. Of course, you could order off menu, but you'd have kind of just this ice set up. You'd have your drinks, I think some mixers, and then ice. So a great example of the wine, beer, or something available to drink at some of the clubs. So prohibition really was had an enormous impact on all of these sites and people's, attempts to gather and be together and to revel. So we used the liquor tour stop to talk about this a little bit more because Washington's era of prohibition lasted longer than a lot of other parts of the country because of that extension to 1948 of the keeping cocktails illegal. You can only have wine or beer. And so tied to this is the story of police corruption during that time and the targeting of black operated clubs. They were raided more frequently than other clubs by the local vice squad and by federal prohibition agents both. This was part of the tolerance or police payoff system that we discussed in the tour. This was something that lasted from Seattle's early days, actually up until the late 1960s at least. And under that system, things that were considered vice activities like drinking, gambling, and prostitution were officially banned. But beat cops and their supervisors would look the other way as long as they received regular payments from those businesses. And in fact, some of the local vice squad raids were really just for show. They would take place, but then some of these places would be shut down, bartenders arrested, everybody bailed out, and then serving again by midnight. And sometimes cuts of these bribes went all the way up to the chief of police, the city council members, or the mayor, depending on whether the people in office were in on the deal or were opposed to the tolerance system. So against this backdrop, we have tales about speakeasies, illegal gambling, and black businessmen who capably struggled a fine line between respectability, having to navigate official corruption, and community leadership and service as well, including bailing out their workers all the time.
That's how we're going to do it. And our spot too. Saves on costs. So another theme, revitalization. We included a few sites that were never listed in the Green Book, but which are connected to this history and which have been restored and revitalized in ways that honor their histories and update their uses to serve modern community needs. Those sites include King Street Station, the Louisa Hotel, Washington Hall, and the Black and Tan Club itself, which was never listed in the Green Book. But if you want to know why, you'll have to look at the app, which you can download right now. Or anytime during the day, month, or year. The Black and Tan Club's original site hasn't been revitalized, though it still exists. as Seattle Chinese, herb, and grocery. But we at Black and Tan Hall tie our lineage to the club and are trying to serve modern-day community needs in our neighborhood, Hillman City. So to recap, entrepreneurship, early Black female entrepreneurs, community gathering spaces and integrated spaces, revitalized historic spaces, and the impacts of prohibition and the police payoff system are some of the themes that you're going to see through that act.
And these histories have resonance to our present-day issues around housing density, affordability, segregation and gentrification, media consolidation and the relative absence of media outlets that cover specific communities or neighborhoods, and the role of entrepreneurship in building Black wealth. This is a really recent screenshot of a story that appeared in the South Seattle Emerald, talking about the headline is Community Care at Independent Black-Owned Othello Station Pharmacy. Talking about exactly these issues of like how can people from within community best serve their communities with additional knowledge, care, and sensitivity to those needs. So this was a really lovely recent piece, and the Emerald does a lot of great work. So first, going back to the resonance, the segregation that necessitated the Green Book has really shaped our city at the neighborhood level of who lives where. So as politicians continue to debate zoning and density issues, these conversations are really intimately connected to the history of segregation in Seattle. We need to know the history in order to really understand what's on the table and what are the longstanding issues that need to be addressed there.
So our research relied on several historical Black-owned newspapers in Seattle, which created a record of these businesses and events that simply aren't duplicated elsewhere. Mainstream papers didn't cover many of the stories, as Ashley alluded to earlier, that appeared in the pages of the Northwest Enterprise or earlier paper, the Seattle Republican. The Library of Congress has done incredible work to digitize and make searchable early newspapers from across the country, which is helpful. Media consolidation is another issue we face today. One thing you can do is support news outlets that are BIPOC owned, or not-for-profit, or that provide a platform for writers from the neighborhoods that aren't being covered. We were delighted that news of the Green Book Tour first broke in the South Seattle Emerald thanks to journalist Troy Landry. So thank you for that.
And then you've also heard how the Green Book was not just a travel guide, but also really operated as a business directory to help promote and advance those businesses. So we wanted to shout out a couple of modern day efforts that take on either the business directory side or the safe travel piece. So if you search Seattle Green Book without putting tour on it, you'll actually get an online directory created by the Denkyam Co-op that's all about listing out current Black-owned businesses that folks can support. On the safe travel side, there's also a YouTube channel called Traveling While Black in Seattle. I think the hosts are here with us today, is that right? And then there are other sites available, such as The Intentionalist, which is a site online that allows you to really, it encourages people to be thoughtful about where they spend their dollars and gives them the tools to do that. So this is what's next for the tour after y'all download it, for Ben's suggestion.
We'll wait.
And so this is the promo photo for our upcoming grand launch in March. It'll be Sunday, March 27th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. We have a Facebook page up, an event page where you can see more details. And then this wonderful photograph here is another one that's courtesy of Black Heritage Society. They have so much stuff, and anyone with digitization skills should help answer that call that Stephanie mentioned earlier, because she's constantly finding other stuff in the archives that's not digitized yet that we all really want to see, I promise you. And so this is of Edith Turnham and her Knights of Syncopation, the name of the band. And so our public event, it'll be a kickoff with music and dance performances, special access to the rediscovered Louisa Hotel murals, and a day in the neighborhood for people to take the tour at your own pace and support the businesses that are there in the neighborhood today. And then we've talked about or thought about future phases to include other neighborhoods and more sites. and creating these collaboratively with partner organizations and community members, and have lots of ideas for expanding the resource. One thing that's particularly on our minds is that every single location on our tour sits on unceded Duwamish and Coast Salish territory, and its history starts well before the very specific area that we've documented. But for right now, we're just really happy that it's out in the world and that this phase is finished. And we're going to take a little bit of a rest before figuring out phase 2, but we do want to hear your ideas.
Just enough rest to download the app. Taking a class on marketing. Repetition. So what's next for Black and Tan Hall? We are shifting our resources and energies towards opening our doors this year, which is huge for us. I spent 2015, 16, 17, and 18 with my big old mouth telling people we were going to open that year. So I'm not going to say anything other than it's coming for now. We have the sprinklers. Last time we were here, actually, in MOHAI for the Al Smith collection, we've been on the verge of opening, only to learn that without sprinkler system, we wouldn't be able to get an occupancy permit. Since then, we've secured the money to install the system, but we couldn't get it done because of we couldn't work out a plan with our building owners. Ultimately, we were able to raise the funds and undergo negotiations to purchase the building in December of last year, which we finally did with the help of the City of Seattle's Equitable Development Initiative Fund in late 2020. And so we're happy to report that those sprinklers have been installed. This was not an issue for Noodles. But with the times. Finally, we want to lift up that we are pretty new to this type of work. Our partnership comes from a variety of backgrounds, artists and teachers and number crunchers and historians and just a variety of folks. Property acquisition and renovation it's not quite one of them. But we've been able to do it together through a collective effort and through partnering and developing what I think are lasting relationships. We all came together to establish a restaurant and music venue and have moved into this history work gradually. And so we invite and welcome your feedback, including critiques and suggestions for additional information that we can include in our app to tell a fuller story with more perspectives. We hope that this seeds conversation about the history and dynamism of these communities. This app is going to grow. We got the deluxe version, so we can add to it and add little 0.2s and 0.3s and 0.4s and 0.5s, and so we hope that we can expand our history circle into partnerships with the community so that we can engage in these histories. I think coming out of this pandemic, it's important for us to recognize that we have to not only celebrate the old, but also remember that there's new things too, and we have to celebrate those. And so we're really trying to make sure that there's a healthy dose of both that paves our way for the future. And in closing, I want to give a huge round of applause and thank you to Ashley Harrison for putting this entire thing together. She has put in such an incredible effort to research this incredible, deep, winding topic, and to write it all down, and making sure that she connected, as she mentioned, with people in the community to make sure that the facts were right and that people were being represented. And it's just an honor to be able to have worked with you on this project. So thank you guys all for coming. Thank you, MOHAI, for having us and for putting this together. This is just a tremendous experience. Don't forget to download the app. And I turn it back over to Stephanie. Thank you all so very much.
Okay, that was for Ashley. Yeah, I mean, let's hear it for the history keepers, because I just absolutely love the idea of the Black and Tan Hall. I can't wait to get there, get my setup,
Us too.
download that app, and you know, just really fabulous. The tour. I mean, Ashley, it's just so beautiful. You know, I can't wait to dive deeper into it and come to the launch that you have scheduled. And just FYI, just to be really clear, my grandfather was one of those card dealers in the back room. Yes, he was at Honeysuckles.
Yes.
Talking about history keepers and the Green Book, I want to introduce you to Gwen Whiting, who is the lead curator at the Washington State Historical Society Museum, but more importantly here for the exhibition that's coming in March, and can't wait to hear about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with everyone today. This is actually the first time I've spoken in public since 2020, I think. So I hope you'll excuse me if I fumble my way through the projector. I'm Gwen Whiting. I'm the lead curator at the Washington State Historical Society. And we are so thrilled to have this brand new exhibition from the Smithsonian Traveling Exhibition Service called the Negro Motorist Green Book. And so I'm going to go through a little bit of the content. This is just a sneak peek of what is a really deep, wonderful, amazing exhibition that we are hosting in Tacoma. So by the early 20th century, the car had become America's signature symbol of freedom through movement. By the 1930s, there were nearly 30 million cars on the road, and 85% of Americans vacationed by car. As we've heard earlier, the car industry and the ability to own cars created a new path to prosperity for Black Americans. But at that time, Black travelers had to contend with the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision Plessy v. Ferguson, which created a legal precedent for the segregation of Americans by race. These policies created an intricate system of rules and regulations that disempowered Black people and subjected them to harassment even when traveling and even on vacation. This was Jim Crow. But the story of this exhibition is about the businesses and the people who fought against this American apartheid. And that's what this exhibition is about. It's not about victimization, but about actualization and about living your dreams despite all the obstacles. So, the Green Book was created, as we heard earlier, by Victor Green, who was a postal worker in Harlem, New York, among many other things. And as we heard, it was an outcome of his deciding to take action against how travel was for he and his wife, Alma. Until his retirement, actually, and throughout the years that he was publishing the Green Book, Green was a full-time postal worker. And when he created the Green Book, he actually enlisted all of his fellow postmen to make contact with Black entrepreneurs along the routes. It started out in New York, but it gradually expanded. And part of it was through this network of folks who were going across the country and talking to people and encouraging them to list in the Green Book, and also helping to distribute this guide to travelers. The guide included so much more than listings of businesses. It included articles, humor pieces, travel tips, and eventually there were places for political essays as well. So that folks were aware. In 1936, Black employment was the highest it had been since the Great Depression, both for men and for women. And so this was a perfect time for the Green Book to come out. Many Black people were migrating to northern cities to earn higher wages, and this opened up the opportunity to purchase cars. At the time, having a car really opened your world. And so in the Green Book exhibition, through the photographs and through the home movies, we see this opening of the world in these different spaces. These, as well as individual businesses. This was also a time where communities were being built and flourishing across the United States. Places that visitors could access, they could connect. And an important thing is that this wasn't necessarily only, the Green Book was not only used for vacation. We have heard people talking about how they used the Green Book as a means of traveling to a place where they would later settle, especially in the Northwest. So while the road was a dangerous place for Black Americans, African Americans continued to create destinations and strategies that affirmed their humanity, their worth, their life, their lives. And we have several different objects in the exhibition that tell these stories and explain how folks found ways to travel safely from one place to the other. The Green Book was not just a guide, but a shield. So with that in mind, some of these objects in the exhibition may seem familiar or even ordinary to you, but when you see them in their context and understand the meaning and how they were used, they become objects of empowerment. So we will see photographs, objects, and stories from across the country, from north, from the east, from the south, and from the west. We'll see the roles that businesses played. Stephanie talked earlier about Esso Standard Oil, and so we'll see a number of stories from folks who worked in those locations. We also talk a lot about the Green Book sites that were owned by Black women. They were dominant throughout the pages of the guide. From beauty shops to funeral home, it was these women-run businesses that really formed the backbone for the Green Book. And in fact, in the latter years of the Green Book's publication, the guide's editing staff was almost entirely made up of women. And after his death, it was his wife, Alma, who ran the Green Book and kept it going. But this isn't just a story of the East or the South, it is also a Northwest story. And from the time when Black settler George Bush founded our state, Black individuals and communities have been crucial to the development of Washington. And this was no different in the time of the Green Book. So thanks to our partners at the Black Heritage Society, the Museum of History and Industry, and many other community partners, there will be a local component to this exhibition where you can see photographs and objects that point out just a few of the sites that existed across the state. And I do want to note that I did look at the Black and Tan Hall tour a lot when looking for the different sites that existed in Washington State.
Did you download it?
I did download it.
I don't even have to do anything. I can just walk away.
So, as we move through our towns, neighborhoods, and urban communities, the Green Book and the app allow us to remember these places, many of which no longer exist or have changed over time. So we hope that you will join us and our partners over the coming months to celebrate these stories. We hope that you will come and see the exhibition, which is in Tacoma, from March 19th to June 12th. And thank you very, very much for being a part of this program.
Thank you, Gwen. Yeah, the anticipation for this exhibition is high. And the Black Heritage Society, with some community partners, are working with the Washington State Historical Society to bring you more programming that coincides with the exhibition. And then just a little tip, hint, traveling while Black to Tacoma on the Black Lives Matter King County Metro bus, just saying. So watch for it. And a number of other really fun activities are coming up too. So, and I see my friends Anthony and Marley. Hey, you guys traveling while Black in Seattle. Loved your piece on George Bush. Brought a huge smile to my face. Thank you.